Explaining CRMA results to the patient's attorney is probably one of the easiest things that I do. Now, it may not be easy. I know I get a lot of questions and hey, how do I do this? And always when I'm getting it, and please do not take this the wrong way, but when I'm getting it, the questions from the doctors, I don't know how to explain this to an attorney. I always know that the reason why you don't know how to explain it to an attorney is you don't fully understand it yourself. Right? Because if you fully understand it yourself, it's the easiest thing in the world to explain. A spine only has two parts to it, bone and connective tissue. Spinal injuries are the #1 cause of chronic pain and disability in the world today. So that chronic pain and disability, whether it's in the neck, whether it's in the low back, whether it's causing headaches, is caused by a spinal injury, a spinal condition, a spinal abnormality. And the spine is only bone and connective tissue. So the only things that can be abnormal is the bone, called a fracture, or a connective tissue issue. Connective tissue is, there's 220 spinal ligaments that hold your spine together, 23 of which are discs. When discs get damaged, they herniate. I think it's pretty simple to understand disc herniations. When non-disc ligaments damage, it causes excessive motion, which causes instability in the spine. Spinal instability is defined as the inability of the spine to maintain its alignment so as not to cause pain or a nerve condition. And a nerve condition can be a radicular complaint, it can be all kinds, it could be headaches, it could be blurred vision, it could be all kinds of symptoms, especially when you get up into the upper cervical. So that's what you're dealing with when you're dealing with a spinal injury, right? Or chronic pain. So if I've got a chronic pain patient, do you have a broken neck? Yeah, they had a broken neck 9 years ago. Okay, well, how did it heal? What's the function of how it healed? Oh, it healed way out of position, and every other tissue that wasn't fractured is also out of position. Good. Can I realign the position of that and to improve the condition? Even though the fracture is permanent and that damage is permanent. Yes, I can. Good. That's what I do. Now, that's not generally what I'm dealing with. Generally, what I'm dealing with is spinal instability. And spinal instability and spinal subluxation are defined the same. Spinal subluxation, misalignment or mismotion of a vertebra that causes nerve interference. Spinal instability, excessive motion of the spine that causes pain or any kind of a nerve condition. What's the differences in it's semantics at that point. So I don't care what you're looking for. If you're a pure subluxation chiropractor, if you go back to the original textbooks at Palmer, you'll find that they believed that it was impossible to subluxate the spine without injury, that the subluxation was an injury to the spine. And that's exactly what I'm saying to you right now. It is. That's what it is, right? So the more you understand injury work, the more you understand spinal injuries, the more you understand every aspect, the more I understood of every aspect of what I did as a chiropractor, right? So that is what you're assessing. Now, there's only 3 ways to assess. Fractures, it's X-ray and CT. Disc is MRI. Non-disc is excessive motion done on X-ray. And you want it done by an unbiased, independent medical service if possible, right? Because you want the highest level of service because the results of this condition are so significant that you want them done in an unbiased manner so they're readily accepted. The results are readily accepted. All right, so I got to explain this to an attorney, right? All right, so let's give a case scenario. Patient comes in. Let's say they came in with an attorney. I've never worked with this attorney. His name's Dan Smith. The attorney's name is Dan Smith. Fictitious name, Dan Smith. Patient comes in, we do ligament testing. There's 2 levels of surgical non-disc ligament damage picked up at C2, C3, C3, C4. All right, C2, C3 has 3.7 millimeters of translation, and C3, C4 has 13 degree angular finding, greater than above or below that motion unit. So you got an angular finding at 3.4, and you got a translation finding at 2.3 that are surgical qualifiers. Okay, well, how hard is it to call up? I just call up Dan Smith, right? I call up And I just say, if I want to, I can call up, leave a message. Hey, Dan, I'm treating your patient, Mary Smith, Mary Jo, and I've never worked with you before. I just want you to know that we just got back imaging results. She's got real serious ligament damage in the upper cervical spine. It's pre-qualified for spinal fusion surgery. We're going to start a program here to stabilize it. We'll see where she goes from there. I may use some outside referrals, and I may also send out for an MRI because she's got some lower level excessive motion problems also, all of which give her facet injuries. And I may need to see if the disc is involved. If the disc is involved, it definitely was caused by the accident. It's not a pre-existing condition. If you have any questions, please call me. Like, I'm going to get a call. You would get a call if you knew to do what I just said to do. Right? Now, who knows what to do, what I just said to do? The top doctors in the country. I'm not saying anything that the top doctors in the country don't understand, because I've trained a lot of them. Right? So, explaining it to an attorney is very simple. What are you looking for? Well, you're going to explain to the attorney how a spine injures. There's only 3 ways to injure a spine. You're going to explain it to the attorney. And that's what you're going to do. And in the explanation to the attorney will they'll cognite themselves, wow, this excessive motion test is important. As a matter of fact, it helps to rule out the fact that the disc herniation that they might have picked up on the MRI is not a pre-existing condition and was caused by the accident. Now, if you don't know what I just said, you can't have a force just go to the disc. How does that happen? You're in an auto injury and the force just hits the disc. It's like a smart bomb of energy that just hit the 4 or 5 disc. No, that force has to go through a lot of tissue. And it does damage all the way through. So you got to have the tissue that's consistent with a fresh disc herniation. And that would not be just the disc herniation itself. You'd have to have the other damage picked up, such as the excessive motion. And so that's how I explain it to the attorney. I also explain to the attorney that, look, when I have upper cervical ligament damage, it mimics every single symptom of mild traumatic brain injury. I'm going to work the patient up potentially with a questionnaire, just to make sure if I need to, later I can still do the TBI, the traumatic brain injury workup later if I need to. I'm going to start to get to work on the obvious ligament damage that I have here now, and I'm going to see if I can't stabilize the condition. If I can't, then I'm already set up for the referral. By the way, also, I may need to refer out for pain management later. If the facets don't calm down, I may, since we got 2 levels of surgical, I may need a surgical consult later. So I'll let you know as I go exactly what I'm doing. Like, talking to the attorney is not difficult, but you yourself have to understand this. And if you don't understand this, I highly recommend that you get training to understand it. And the training should not be complicated. It's not about, hey, look, I need 4 more years of education, or I need credentialed education that's going to show me exactly. I'm going to put a ton of certs up on my board, or I'm going to put a ton of qualifications in my CV. Those are all great as long as you understand the simplicity of these injuries, because that's where it's at. Especially when you're explaining it to an attorney, because remember, an attorney does not understand these injuries at all. So when doctors can explain it to an attorney, they become very, very valuable for that law firm.